Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about project management and climbing the ladder. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, question, do you really want to question is, do you really want to stop coding and become a project manager just to climb the ladder and make more money? Many developers I know don't want that. This was posted on a video which is named Are Programmers Terrible at Climbing the Corporate Ladder? So in that video, if I remember correctly now, I think I briefly touched on that it's not that software developers are terrible at climbing the corporate ladder, it's just that they don't understand how most of our society rewards the fact that you make more money. As I've said, guys, if you think a little bit about it, the smartest people in the world are not making the largest bucks, necessarily, because it's more complicated than that. And it has to do with one part, of course, talent and so forth, but it also has to do with a culture, I will argue at the very least, a culture heritage that has been around for quite some time, and that comes down to what we call influence. Now, influence is very difficult to define, but if you look at the higher up the ladder you go, especially in the large corporations, guys, the people who are heads of departments of like IT at some of the highest levels of management, they don't know. I mean, most of them don't know how to use their computer without tech support, even if they're head of IT. And so this idea that software developers have that, it's all about the tech and it's all about your skill and so forth. It's actually not true, because you will reach a point where you are going to have to start playing ball with the powers that be, and that's because they are already established, which makes it very difficult for you to change anything about that. It's the same thing in politics or whatever you want to do, right? And when you get to that level, you have an advantage, or well, you basically have to make a choice in many cases, which is that either you will have to stay just a software developer. But the problem with that, as I've said, is that even if you make that choice, you will have to do one thing and transition into doing one thing specifically. And that is, in essence, like it's the heart and soul of the same thing you do as a product manager or something like that. And that is that you need to transition from just taking responsibility for your own work and your results as an individual to taking the responsibility of a group of people or a initiative or something larger than yourself. Let me touch on that a little bit. This is the thing that most software developers fail to do, and so it's not a question of do you have to become a product manager to make more money. That's not the case. I am if we just take me as an example. Now, funnily enough, I am both a product manager at this point and other things as well. I still do all the coding, so they decided to call me a technical product manager instead, because fundamentally what happens, guys, is that you will reach a point where if you want to progress even further and make even more money or have more responsibilities and so forth, you will have to understand that there's only so much value a company or any organization is going to gain from you as an individual working at that company. And at some point, the success that you bring has to start affecting, as I said, more people. So with me, for example, I started as a software developer, even if we talk about the latest thing that I've been doing, right? So I started in the company I think they hired me as a software developer, something, senior software developer, something like that, right? And within just a few months, I become a tech lead for another team because they need it and I seem to be a good fit for it. I do that job. I do still all the same coding. I basically run the whole, I build up the team, I coach the team, I set up all the necessary processes, I do all the things that are necessary. And after a few, 9 months or something like that, the team has gone from basically being in a fairly poor state to now working fairly efficiently and having all the necessary bells and whistles that you would expect from a serious IT team. Now, because I did that, they realize that, oh, actually Fredrik has the potential to now, because if I were to just do my own thing in that situation, those results would never have been there. And those are the results that fundamentally bring even more value to the company, because it's great to have a senior software developer or have like a experienced software developer doing the work, but it's too narrow a scope for you to progress even further, because the companies are in desperate need of scaling like people who know how to do things to more larger parts of the organization, because an organization doesn't necessarily care about just one productive individual. They want leaders and managers and so forth that can actually make everyone more productive. That's the idea of being a real manager, or in my case I call it a leader and so forth. But the idea is that's the foundation of it all, and you don't have to be like leave your coding behind. I haven't. And as I said, I have more than one job. The reason why I have more than one responsibility at this point is because they literally need me to do all the things at the same time, but they can't. I'm one person, so what they do is the thing that usually happens when you show promise within something that is critical to the business or to your managers and so forth. They try to divide you up because they can't find more people that can do that, which is the thing that I'm talking about. It's not like I'm unique in any way, guys. Most software developers have the potential to take on, to keep those solid codings, because I code on a daily basis. I still have to take care of other things, but the thing is that I've also taken the time to not just get really good at the coding. I've also made sure that I'm pretty good at the management part and setting up work processes and coaching teams and taking care of juniors, doing hiring and like all this other stuff, right? These things, if you're good at those as well, this is what gets you even further up the ladder. And at this point I have a foot in more than a few, let's just say a foot in more than a few teams, but I still do just as much coding, and I haven't traded anything really. I have traded the fact that I only have to focus on my stories that I code on, but at the same time I gain other benefits from it, and I become a more well-rounded person when it comes to bringing results. That's the thing that you can that will happen if you want to progress up the ladder, because as I said, it's not about you giving up coding necessarily. You can still be a technical product manager, or you can be a technical tech lead, or like a technical whatever. There's tons of people that even apart from me who work in the same sort of role, their job is basically to share and their experience with other software developers. So there's many flavors of what you can do if you want to progress up the ladder in IT. The thing that you do not get away from, however, is that you have to, usually at the very least, find a way to scale your experience and so forth to more than just yourself, unless there are situations where you might be able to get paid even more if you're a super specialist in something, but usually this is the way it goes. So you can absolutely, the thing you basically have to give up, or this idea, is that you can just sit by yourself, work on your own story, and then just endlessly get paid more and more. That's usually not going to happen. So what I want you to take away from this is that no, you don't have to become a product manager to make more money or climb the ladder in IT. It's just that you have to understand that there is only so much value one can gain from just you. It's the sum of all the things that you do that starts giving you this idea, that gives you that value that people are willing to pay more and more for. It's the same thing with managers, as I was saying. The higher up the ladder you go, the less it has to do with how, sadly enough in many cases I would say, because that's sort of a foundation problem in our society, I argue, where your role or your perceived value or your influence means more than your competence within an area. But at the same time, we can't just say that just because you're really good at tech, that means that you should lead the show or get paid more than everybody else just because you know more, because the foundation thing that you're trying to get to is value produced. And a person who's just good as a single individual is not going to have as much of an effect on an organization usually as someone who can lead efficiently and inspire more people. Because I've said this before, guys, a true 10x software developer isn't just someone who is very smart. It's someone who can scale or can lift other people up with them. That's the thing that is important. If you can have that effect, and you can have that without giving up your coding, I promise you will start climbing the ladder. Have a great day.